Hello everyone. Happy Thursday. I hope everyone is fine. Today in the UK is a bit of a grey day, but I hope it's sunny where you are. So today we're going to talk about a topic that I really love. It's connected to resilience, which is one of the key skills I advocate as part of my framework, which is contained in Sustainable. Is one of the skills, the key skills of sustainability professionals. I believe without resilience, you can't really achieve much. Because you will be crushed by your setbacks or anything that doesn't go quite your way. And we know how the climate crisis is a big challenge, and if we don't become resilient, then we risk losing without even trying to battle. So today, I'm going to talk about the case for being a stubborn optimist, which is a definition, stubborn optimism, that comes from Christiana Figueres, who was the architect, the executive director of the UNFCCC, which is the body responsible for the UN's climate change treaty. I got inspired. Oh, before I say that, I didn't actually introduce myself. So I'm Virginia Cinquemani. Hello. I'm the host of this series of LinkedIn Live that also go on YouTube called Unleash Your Green Gorilla. And that's because I'm the director and founder of Green Gorilla Consultants Ltd, which is a training and coaching company dedicated to sustainability professionals to empower them to make their voice heard. I'm also the author of the book that I showed you before. So I'm doing things a bit, the other way around. Sustainable, how to find success as a sustainability professional in a rapidly changing world. As I said, so feel free to say hello if you are LinkedIn Live. I'd love to say hello to you. Oh, hello, Jaime. Welcome. And also, if you're not a stubborn optimist, it would be fantastic to know that. Just let me know why. Or if you are a stubborn optimist, tell me. We're going to discuss this today. So let's start. So I was inspired by Christiana Figueres and her talk that she did a couple of weeks ago, I think 20 days ago, during the TED Countdown talks. And that was exactly that, the case for stubborn optimism. Now, I was starting to, I started following Christiana Figueres since the treaty in Paris in 2015. She achieved something that was virtually impossible before she started this challenge. She tried this challenge, which meant putting together a global agreement on climate change. And that, if you asked her at the time, she would tell you, well, I'm not going to see that in my lifetime. However, she realized that this attitude was actually, which was very widespread among all the UN officials, wasn't conducive to anything. That's exactly the problem. When you start with pessimism, when you start with, we're not going to achieve that, guess what? Chances are you're not going to achieve that. And I know, there is a little bit of superstition when we say, oh, no, we're not going to achieve that. But then inside yourself, you do. I think you can just cut the middle ground and just go for optimism. And let's see why actually Christiana is, decided consciously to become a stubborn optimist. So story goes, her father was the president of Costa Rica, and he did 3 mandates in Costa Rica. So it was a very popular president. And his leadership style inspired her to, and the setbacks of being, an official at that, the highest possible political state, inspired her to keep on going in spite of the difficulties, in spite of the challenges. So she was appointed, as I said, to lead this process of coming to the global agreement around climate change. And she managed, in the end, to achieve 197 countries agreeing to bring forward their own national climate change plans and reduce carbon emissions in line with what the science said, so keeping them below an increase of 2 degrees Celsius. from pre-industrial level. And then she wrote a book that I'm sure some of you have read already, and which is called The Future We Chose, or We Choose, sorry. And yeah, I can see I got lots of stubborn optimists here. Thank you guys for sharing your thoughts. That's great. But okay, let's understand why it's important to be a stubborn optimist. As I was saying before, if we start with a pessimistic view, which is a bit of a stoic view, like, okay, let's try and it's a way of protecting yourself. So it's a natural process to think, okay, things are going to go pear-shaped. What do I do if they go pear-shaped? So it's that thinking and reasoning around why we should protect ourselves in case of disaster. And that's a good thing. That's what, you know, that risk management brain of the human being is what helped the human being thrive throughout the centuries. However, in certain situations, when you have to focus your attention 100% on a difficult challenge, actually this particular attitude doesn't really help, and it doesn't give you the results that it should really give you. So why being a stubborn optimist? Because when you embrace optimism, then you're putting the whole of yourself into something. You know wholeheartedly there. That's a very important mental attitude for winning. Do you know, even in my book, I mention how certain sports people, and you should know, well, you might know that, certain sports people find it helpful to visualize in their head before, you know, the day before a match, before an important competition, themselves winning. And they can see it and they can feel it, and, you know, they can feel the crowd. Well, normal times, the crowd cheers them on, and you know, the actual physical sensations of being there and winning and kicking the winning ball, or you know, or I don't know, throwing the winning ball or whatever that is, or crossing the line, you know. That helps the mind prepping for a winning attitude. And that's nothing different from what we need to do with climate change. God knows if it's difficult. It's part of a very, very complex system of issues. So there is no one-size-fits-all solutions that we can adopt. And I was quite baffled. Probably some of you have seen my post on LinkedIn a few days ago about Boris Johnson, the PM of the UK, sorry, England, saying that technology will save you from the climate crisis. Well, that's one of the solutions, but we can't rely on technology 100%. There are many, many other things that we need to do in order to really win this battle. And it goes from, you know, changing our own mental attitude to seeing the connections between the things, using technology absolutely as one of the solutions, but it cannot be one thing. It definitely cannot be one thing. So once we are focused on the challenge, and this is a big challenge, then our minds open. That's the thing. We don't have a you know, a closed view of a problem, just a linear view of a problem. We open up. Let me just say, climate depends on us to an extent, absolutely. To us, well, from every single one of us. So the first thing that Christiana Figueres advocates is radical optimism, or, you know, stubborn optimism, and then thinking, and I love this, thinking that the world is endlessly abundant. We always have a scarcity mindset, which comes from everything, from marketing, from, you know, what consumerism is telling us, that we're always missing something, we need the next thing, but also money is scarce, you know, or you know, everything is about to end, which is not true. If we try and see, as you know, the world has actually enough resources for everyone, it's just at the moment is imbalanced. We need to see that as a, you know, as another positive view of the world and what's going around. So we're not going to fight for a little piece of land. We're not going to fight over, you know, a few things, because we know that the world is abundant. We just need to change that mindset. The third point of Christiana Figueres is that we need radical regeneration. Sorry. Sometimes it happens to me. I get lost in translation. Which means that we need to care about ourselves, care about the nature, and we need to, and that's going back to resilience. If we are resilient, we can take care of everything else. If we are taking care of ourselves in various ways, we will talk about, some of the things we could do to develop the stubborn optimism in a minute, then we can embrace the world and help the world as well. So the other thing is, obviously, you will tell me, perhaps, you might tell me, well, but what do I do? I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling, equal anxiety. I feel worried. I don't know what the solution is. And nobody knows, by the way. The thing is, you need to use these feelings and channel them to move you forward. They need to be recognized, and that's the first step of becoming resilient. You don't reject everything, because what resists persists. So you accept that you got these feelings, uncomfortable, ugly, sad, whatever that is, and then acknowledge them and then move on and say, okay, now that I'm sad and then I'm angry, I'm going to do something about it. Because look, guys, what is the alternative? If we are pessimistic, and I know plenty of people that decide, to just give up, because that's easy. Well, that's the thing. It's the easier option. But the quality of our lives is not going to be enriched. We're not going to find meaning in what we do, because we know that, the clock is ticking and we're not doing anything about it. So we might actually exacerbate our anxiety, our worry, our bad feelings, and we're not doing anything to help. Now, nothing will say that by becoming stubborn optimists, we're going to save the world. And, it's honest, it's the honest view of what's going on. But at least I want to go to bed at night thinking, I've actually tried. I have tried my best to help. And I think that's an attitude that at least on a personal level helps me keep up with the challenge and become more resilient and show others as well. Because let's not forget, as individuals, we have a huge amount of responsibility towards our fellow humans. We think in a very selfish terms most of the time. So we think about ourselves, our family, our little group. But actually, whatever we do, even when we post something on LinkedIn, even when we go around with a mask on at the moment, we're acting for others. And you know what? I'm as fed up as you guys wear masks, but I know that that's one of the ways I can protect others. We are not isolated. We're part of a big system. So whatever we do has an impact on others. So if just for that, just for the educational point of view, I think we should all be stubborn optimists and showing our children, the youngsters, but even, people our own age or older, God knows, what impact we can make on other people. I think that is a ripple effect that we should take the challenge and do. And embrace the not knowing. Thank you, Rachel. I think that's absolutely right. Embrace not knowing that no one knows a thing. But in a way, I learned in my work and in the way I am, when I don't have a solution, but I have a direction, then I need to trust the process as much as I can. Nobody will tell me, nobody can assure me that I'm going to hit my goal, but I have a direction. I'll keep on going. I trust the process and I will learn on the way. And hopefully, if we all do that, if we all put together our efforts, I think putting together individual efforts magnifies the power we have as human beings. So the more we are fighting for the same fight and walking in the same direction, actually, that's a nicer image than fighting, because that doesn't really sit with me very well. But walking in the same direction, making progress together is a huge thing. Yes, and I agree with Amit. Things look bigger and worse when you avoid them. Absolutely, I keep on saying, what you resist persists. So if you resist something, it's going to be magnified in your head, and it's going to be magnified around you. If you let go, if you think about it in a rational way, if you keep on going with you in your direction and not being distracted by the voices around you, then things are going to be more manageable. How many times, and thank you, Amit, for that, how many times we start a problem not knowing what solution there is? Lots of times, right? From my times when I was studying mathematics, to be fair, at school, I wasn't great at that. Talking, yes, I could talk, but mathematics, no. But yet, when I actually sat down, and I used to cry and struggle and not wanting to do my homework, but then I sat down and read the problem or whatever I had in front of me, and actually I was like, oh, okay, I thought it was more complicated than that. I could do it. So I think if we all had that attitude of can do, even if you don't have the solutions immediately, it can literally change the world. I'm quite positive about that. Now, there are some things that are quite powerful in the book that Christiana Figueres wrote. She obviously said that there is no such a thing as a cookie cutter approach to reducing emissions, like we were saying before. And in fact, that stubborn optimism helps seeing reality with all its connections, I think. As I was saying at the beginning, it helps open up your mind to the possibilities, to the options, because you know that you want to get there. So your brain is going to start going into problem-solving mode, and then you're going to start seeing the connections, you're going to start seeing potential solutions out there, a bit here, a bit there. Now, every country is different. Every country has slightly different challenges, or big, actually major different challenges. We need to be open to and flexible to see where the solutions can be in your country, in your situation, but even in your little neighborhood, because they might be just under your nose, you might not see them, and it might not be for everyone the same. So that's very important. And it's pointless to demonize one industry, one country. Oh, it's all about the corporates. Or no, it's all about the politicians. It's all about single people. No, we're all in this together, guys. We are the inhabitants of this house, and we need to save it together. So I think it's quite easy to say, oh, until the aviation industry is not going to clean up their act, I'm not going to do anything. Actually, I'm going to keep on flying. Not my fault. That's easy. Okay, that's not what someone that really cares about their own home would do. I'll tell you a little anecdote because it reminds me of that. When I was in Sicily last year on holiday, I was just, walking. It was summer. I was walking down the street and I wanted to go and buy something in a shop. And I crossed the road, and then there was this old man with his car. He opened the door and he started chucking on the floor a pen, an empty plastic bottle, some receipts, leftover pistachio nuts, and you name it. And my jaw dropped. I was like, and then I started getting really enraged. And so I challenged him. I went there and I was, what are you doing? Exactly, what are you doing? What do you want? Of course, I went quite aggressively. Probably I could have learned from my own teaching and, went in a different way and perhaps approached him. But I was so angry when I saw that. It's just this sort of things really send me, to the stars and back. So he said, oh, what do you want? And I said, well, this is your home, isn't it? This is your city. You're making it dirty. You're actually throwing your rubbish on the floor with no respect for everyone, or even, the place that I assume you love. Well, I don't care. This is the job of the man that cleans the street. That's what he said. I said, oh, okay. So do you do the same in your home? Do you keep your home like this? Like every time you open a packet of crackers or something, you throw the wrapping on the floor? Oh, no, my house is spotless. Oh, that's very good. So that's the attitude of lots of people. They don't care because it's someone else's job. But in their own little patch, everything needs to be perfect. So we need to absolutely come out of this attitude. And I know you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't throw rubbish on the floor, but it's the same attitude. If you give up before even trying, if you say, okay, no, it's the government's job, it's not my job, then you're doing exactly like that old man. Anyway, he ended up swearing at me, and I walked out, and well, someone came and said, oh, you are a dirty pig, da da da. Anyway, he went a bit Sicilian way in the end, but nobody was dead. So I think it's, you know, at least I told him what I thought. Anyway, so let's go then to the 10 points that Cristiana Figueres has in her book. So very, summarized points of what we can actually do to move forward, because I'm all about practice and I'm all about moving things forward. So let go of the old world. So that's number one. That means, okay, we have used fossil fuels all our lives. It's time to let go. Recognize that, you know what, they served a purpose for a while, not the right solution in hindsight. Let go of that. So you need to draw a line and start afresh for many, many things that you used to use or do. Sorry. I got quite irritated thinking about the old man. Number two, you need to face your grief, but hold a vision of the future. Like I was saying before, you need to acknowledge that things haven't gone necessarily well until this point. You might feel disheartened, you might feel, sad, anxious, etc. So you need to face it. You need to understand where all of this comes from, but then you need to hold on and use that anger, that sadness to power you forward for the future. So that's the difficult bit. And I'm not saying for a second that it's easy. It's not easy, but it needs a little bit of self-awareness and work that you can do with a coach, with a mentor, by yourself, reading, thinking, meditating, many, many ways of doing that, and then move on to the future. Defend the truth. There are so many fake news around, but you know what the truth is, especially if you work in sustainability, you know what the truth is. Don't believe people that say, climate change is not being demonstrated. Oh God, it has been demonstrated. You can take, the evidence and show it to people. So just hold on to your truth. Number four, see yourself as a citizen, not as a consumer. And that's so important because, again, the whole industry, the whole economy, the way it's been built in the last 200 years is taking you now to feel like a consumer, someone who has the consumer rights, someone who has the right to consume, actually. Well, you also have the right to be a citizen in this earth and be comfortable in your own home and defend your own home. So just shift that mindset from someone who consumes to someone that actually lives in here. Number five, going back to the first point, to move beyond fossil fuels is just show, you might be attached to the past, but you can move on. 6, very important, reforest the earth. So this is probably the number one thing that we can all do. There are lots of charities now, lots of non-for-profit organizations that help you plant trees. The best thing is actually to plant them yourself. If you're not in that position, you can donate to reputable organizations that plant tree for you. Green Gorilla uses ecology with an eye at the end, and also One Tree Planted, to plant trees every time you buy one of the books or purchase one of the courses, but also every month we donate. Because the one thing we can do is actually to plant trees, to try and counterbalance. And also these organizations know how to plant trees in a way that doesn't harm the environment, because if you go for monoculture, of course, you're going to harm the environment. While they know, they support projects around the world with the right plantations in the right places. We need to invest in a clean economy. The one thing as citizens that we can do, the one very powerful thing I found out that we can do as citizens to do that, is to check what your bank is doing. Where do they invest the money? What is your money, your wage every month, or, your pension? Where do they sit? Because you see, if it's one of the bigger ones, chances are they're investing in fossil fuels, weapons, and other things that I'm sure you wouldn't agree to give money to. So I've switched bank completely after I realized that. So all my pension pots and all the, all my money goes to banks that don't invest in fossil fuels or weapons or anything that is not ethical. So you can do that. I think there is a website in the UK that is called Switch It. Oh, I think I'm going a bit patchy now. Can you still see me, hear me? Yeah. I'm going to keep on going because, oh yeah, maybe now I'm back. So I was saying you can use a website called Switch It, I believe it's called, and you can check what your bank is doing, whether they're ethical or not. So that's a very powerful thing you got in your hand as a citizen and as a consumer as well. So, the power in the money that you have, you can use it for the right thing. Number 8, to use technology responsibly. Now, as I said a minute ago, technology is definitely one thing that we will use as part of the solutions, but it's not the solution. It's not one solution. So it will be part of the mixture or mix of solutions that will take us to a better planet, but it can't be just one thing. Number 9, and I love this, build gender equally. Well, actually, build gender equality. If I could read, it would be better. One thing that Christiana Figueres says, apologies men, is when women lead, good things happen. And we've seen it's because, not for anything, and please forgive me if you're a man, but it's because we are a bit, generally, general terms, a bit more open, more sensitive to a wider range of views. We're better at working collaboratively, and we tend to have a longer term perspective. It's just the way we're made, in a way. So it would be fantastic if more women were in charge. We've seen beautiful examples of leadership by women during the first wave of COVID, including obviously the PM of New Zealand, very famous, Jacinda Ardern. And others as well, that are led beautifully. Their attitude and their way of tackling the problem are seeing less deaths, less contagions during the COVID first wave. So, and that's just an example. So let's help women in your lives to get to the top positions. If you are a man and if you can do that, support the women in your life. And then, yeah, God, Jacinda. Yeah, Sean, that's your PM, isn't it? Isn't she? So number 10, engage in politics. Now, that's obviously, we're very close to the US election. Voting is the number one thing that you can do to shift things in a direction or another, in terms also climate crisis, but also civil disobedience. So you can join all of this, movements that are now, like Extinction Rebellion and others, or you can boycott with your own choices. As a consumer this time, use it in the right way. Boycott those brands that you disagree with, that they don't have your same values. There is a lot of power in your hands. And that's what I want, as a final thought. I think the power is in our hands, individual hands and collective hands as well. So let me have a look at the chat. Oh, thank you. So One Planet Women Better Than Universal Man. Yeah, well, I think it's all about balance, isn't it? That's what life is. It's about balance. And men and women, they're the two faces of the planet, isn't it? Plus all that in between. I don't want to exclude anyone. I think balance is a beautiful thing. Too much of one thing is detrimental either ways. We need both to really thrive. Let me see. Any questions? Any thoughts? Anything? Climate change is not apocalypses. Well, it might be in the end. Lots of I can see lots of optimists in the chat. Yeah, Rachel thinks it's a matter of balance too. Absolutely. I think at the moment it's quite imbalanced. That's the thing. I think 5% of all top organizations have only 5% have women at the top as CEOs. And that's not exactly where we want to be. It should be more like 50, not 5, of course. Climate changes, but not as much as the weather. Well, yeah, there is, I mean, there is lots that we can debate about climate. The thing is, obviously, we need to do something. We need to do something now. And that's I think my final thought for today. You have the power in your hand. You can do it through banking, planting trees, educating others, spreading the word, joining any of these organizations that they're doing well and doing good. But yeah, feel the power, feel the power and use it in the right way. Okay, so my dear stubborn optimists, thank you so much for today, for being here with me today. Oh, I am super stubborn. I mean, I was since I was a child, and now I'm using my qualities to my work. So thank you so much for being here, and do let me know what you think about this series, you know, what you want me to talk about next. I've got a little program, but it'd be great to know what you would like me to talk or who I can speak to, because this is, you know, the first two have been just for me to familiarize myself with this tool, but it'd be great to invite someone. I have a guest next week, so Mike Barry, so get ready for that. But I will also welcome any suggestions of interesting people to interview about soft skills in sustainability, about sustainability attitudes, and how we can all together make this world a better one. Thank you guys, and have a great afternoon and weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye.